it's both exciting and frightening. You know, on one hand, we as investors in the precious metals market, we want to see the price rise because we believe the price is too low and the price is artificially kept down. And we were expecting the price to rise, and we were trying to protect ourselves from inflation by holding physical gold and silver. And that's something completely legitimate. But as it's happening, we are also, especially that it's happening so quickly and suddenly, and the price movement is so extreme, there's something also frightening about it, because you cannot help asking yourself whether this is not an indication of a looming financial crisis, that perhaps there's more than just, the effect of inflation. Perhaps there's some kind of event getting closer, which the price of gold and silver is like foreshadowing.
Right,
Now,
absolutely. Because it is one of those things where because we're aware of the manipulation, it's exciting to see it break out because it's not at its true market value, at its like honest market value. And so we want to see it get to that point. Of course, we don't want to see, a lot of chaos in the economy. Um, and what you were saying about volatility, I mean, it is really crazy right now, folks. At 5 a.m. this morning, the silver price was as low as 26.21, and it went all the way up to 27.28 at 6:30 this evening. And I mean, that's, a little over $1 in one day. Like, what do you think about that kind of price
yes,
volatility?
I was being asked whether this means that the manipulation is finally over, whether the manipulation has been broken. And I'm not sure about that. We still don't have enough data in order to confirm such a thing. The only way really to break the manipulation is when people are going to stop treating the official price of gold and silver coming from the COMEX as the price of gold and silver. The moment that they disregard that price, they start treating it as just a worthless piece of data that nobody takes seriously, that's the moment when you know for sure that the manipulation is over. Now, it could be that we're in the process of that happening because, in the past few years, since the price was so low, it translated into a deficit, certainly in the silver market, and the above ground inventories were being drained. So are we at the point that the inventories are, gone or close to gone to such an extent that the manipulation is breaking? I'm not sure about that yet. There is another possibility. The other possibility is that what we are seeing is what I call a managed retreat, because we all know that miners haven't been able to make a profit in recent years. The price was too low. On one hand, their expenses were growing. The cost of fuel, the cost of materials, the cost of salaries, their costs were rising, but the price of gold and silver wasn't rising. So they were being squeezed. And eventually we could see mining companies failing, going bankrupt. And then you would see mining supply fall off a cliff.
Oh yeah, get even worse. And it's already been in a deficit for years at this
Yes,
point.
and the market is already tight and has been tight for a few years, and you already have a deficit. Now imagine if, for instance, people say, oh, when it comes to silver, since a lot of the silver which is coming to the market is coming as a byproduct of the mining of base metals, copper, lead, and zinc. That's
Yep.
more than 50% of the market. And people are assuming that those miners will continue bringing silver to the market no matter the price. And perhaps there's truth to that. They're going to go on producing the base metals, and silver is going to come as a byproduct, and they're going to receive whatever price the market is willing to offer for that silver. But you have the primary silver miners who are responsible to about 25% of the global supply. And if the price is too low, then they will go bankrupt, or at least shut down their mines, put them on, maintenance, care and maintenance. And that means 25%, like something like 200 million ounces will just vanish overnight. And the market cannot tolerate that. So what I'm thinking is perhaps the manipulators, the people behind that manipulation, they are forced to allow the price to rise so as to allow the miners some kind of profit and allow them to go on operating.
You know, that's a really good guess because clearly this situation is unsustainable. One thing that I noticed today was that the gold to silver ratio got down to like 84 and a half to
Yes.
1. And I'm hoping to see it keep lowering.
You know,
And
I just tweeted a very interesting chart which shows the gold to silver ratio historically,
uh-huh.
like looking back all the way back to the 19th century and further back, and you can see that a gold to silver ratio of 80 or more is a very rare event. That throughout most of history, the gold to silver ratio was below 20, which makes sense because that is more or less the ratio between the abundance of the two metals in the ground, gold and silver.
Right,
And
yeah, and the crust, and they're bringing it out of the crust at a ratio of about 7 to 1 right now, is what people are
yes,
saying.
yes, yes, definitely. And you can see that sometimes around the end of the 19th century, when
Uh-huh.
industrial mining became more common, let's put it this way, and the application of fossil fuels allowed miners to extract silver more efficiently. So you see it starting to rise at first above 20 and then drifting towards the 40, but seeing it above 80 is still, historically speaking, a very rare event. So although, you know, in recent years it has been over 80 and we've seen it even at around 100, we got used to it being this way. But we have to remember that historically speaking, this is a very rare event, and I don't expect that to last. One reason is because lack of energy. I believe that in coming years, we're going to see the price of energy rising. That means that even though we have this technological ability to extract silver more efficiently than, let's say, in the 19th century, still the price is going to have to rise accordingly. It could turn out that this glut of silver that we've seen, you know, during the 20th century, that was just a passing event. And and
Right.
and also, of course, silver is a finite resource. Like, let's assume that you were able to extract silver very efficiently, but then that's it. You've
At some point,
extracted.
it's going to run out anyway.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna run out in the ground.
Yep,
So
exactly.
so it could turn out that this apparent glut of silver that we've seen during the 20th century, it was just transient. It wasn't something we can build upon. You see what I mean? We're going
Right,
that
absolutely. I mean,
it,
because you're pushing back the inevitable. You know,
yes.
you've lowered the rate that you're extracting it from the crust, but it is finite. It's going to run out at some point. You know, it wouldn't surprise me at some point in this bull market if we see it break all-time highs. And I mean, anything wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't surprise me if we saw triple-digit silver.
I wouldn't be surprised. This is going to sound far-fetched, but I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing quadruple digit silver. I know it sounds crazy, but the thing is we're living through crazy times, and there is no boundary on the price of gold and silver. With enough inflation, you can reach any price,
Good
any
point.
price.
Absolutely. Just depending on how bad the inflation gets.
I can't guarantee anything, right? I'm just saying that you need to have an open mind. Right now we have inflation, regular, good old inflation. So the price of gold and silver can rise as you're seeing right now by 10%, 20%, 30%, perhaps 50% it's going to rise. But if we ever transition from regular inflation into hyperinflation, God forbid,
Oh boy. Uh-huh.
hyperinflation is of course the moment in which the public rejects the currency. The public is fed up with, let's say, the dollar and says, I'm not willing to see my savings being eroded any longer. And now I'm going to take whatever dollars I have and convert them into something. It's some kind of tangible good. Then you can suddenly see the price of gold jumping by leaps and bounds. You can see it, one day traded for $3,000 an ounce, and a week later for $4,000 an ounce, and a month later for $5,000 an ounce. So, of course, this happens only during a hyperinflation, when the currency is really collapsing. So we need to be aware. We need to ask ourselves, are we in a hyperinflation? Yes or no? Right now, we're not. Right now, there is no guarantee that we're ever going to see a hyperinflation of the dollar. It's just a theory. But if we get into this kind of situation, God forbid, then just because gold, for instance, goes to $10,000 an ounce, it doesn't mean you need to go out and sell it quickly because the price is too high. You need to be aware of what is happening in the entire commodity complex. You need to be aware of what is happening in the entire economy. Because perhaps if it reaches $10,000 an ounce, maybe you need to keep it a month later or a year later, it's going to be $100,000 an ounce. So you need to
Right.
be
And then you
very
would really be,
careful.
yeah,
And
then you'd
even if
really be
you,
sad that you sold it.
yeah, even if you sell, if you decide to sell, don't sell it all at once. Do it very gradually. And
I think that's very good advice. Don't go sell your whole basket of eggs in one shot.
yeah,
That you could really shoot yourself in the foot in a situation like that.
yes. And that's the privilege we have with gold and silver, that we can sell them gradually because they are divided into coins or bars. Unlike real estate, for instance, in which you need to sell a house or a condo, it's a large chunk of money at the same time.
Right. And it's all exposed at that point where, assuming you did sell something like that. So there, yeah, that's a good point. It's a huge advantage to having something like this that you can, just sell little by little as you need it. And, it'll keep protecting you against that inflation. I think we're in for a wild ride, folks. But
Definitely.
it is nice to see silver poked over 27 and gold
Yes.
over 2,300. And
As we were saying earlier, it's both exciting and frightening
yes,
because we as investors in this market, of course, we want to see the price of gold and silver rising because we believe their price is too low and has been too low for decades. But at the same time, this could be the harbinger of, some serious trouble. And if, God forbid, this translates into war, I mean, global war,
yeah, hopefully not.
War III, then I'm afraid it's not going to be a very pleasant environment. So uh, I'm very happy to have physical gold and silver in such an environment to help protect myself. But it's probably not going to happen in a very pleasant environment.
Yeah, if it ever gets really, really high, things are going really bad out there. But
Yeah,
yeah, so hopefully nothing like that happens. I'm really hoping for peace and that we don't see any large scale war breakout. But yeah, it's a crazy time that we're in right now, and so you just never know what might happen.
yes. I want to add one more thing to this
You
discussion
bet.
about the possibility of war. I was arguing for some time that perhaps silver can do even more than just protect us from war. Perhaps it can even prevent war or stop it, and perhaps even pacify the world. Because, eventually the fact that gold and silver have been so low, it helped the fiat monetary system as a whole continue to this very day. This
Oh
is what
yeah.
I this is what I believe.
Uh-huh.
And I think that the so-called war machine, what you call in the US the military industrial complex, it could only exist in the environment of a fiat currency. And perhaps if we do get sound money again, if gold and silver become money again, then perhaps there won't be enough funding for war. Perhaps governments around the world will have no choice but to become more peaceful because they're not going to have enough budgets, enough resources in order to fund these wars, which I don't think the common person is interested in at all.
Well, I think it could definitely help. If you can't just print off a bunch of monopoly money and go buy tanks or whatever, you got to get sound money to back that before you print it, and everything's being budgeted. So you actually have to operate within a limited budget every year.
Correct. You have to
I
you
mean,
have to balance the budget. When you have
right.
sound money, you have to balance the budget. And since you have to balance the budget, it means that if you want to go to war, it means you have to cut something else. For instance, you have to cut entitlements. And then you have an outcry from your population saying, no, I don't want my entitlements to be cut. No, no. So let's not go to war. So
That's a good example.
inadvertently, it could bring us to a situation in which there's political pressure on our leaders not to go to war because we need these precious resources at home.
Yeah, and all these other useful things we could be doing with them too. Because like you said, the average person doesn't want more. I mean, I don't want more. People I talk to, nobody wants a world war. It's just our leaders. And so yeah, I think that that's a very powerful message.
So perhaps gold and silver bring with them a message of peace as well. Thank you for listening to the Silver Hermit podcast. If you like this content, please donate in the link which appears in the description below. Please subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends and family. Hit the bell icon to be notified whenever I release a new video. Remember, I'm not a licensed financial advisor. This video is intended for general informational purposes only and should not be regarded as investment advice. Before taking any investment decision, please consult with a professional financial advisor who may assess your personal investment objectives and needs.